Namo Amida Butsu. Introduction by Gansen John Welch. I wrote these 4 new poems to thank and honor my teachers, Reverend Josho, Adrian, Cirlea, and Paul Roberts, as well as our Amida Dharma Masters, Nagarjuna, Vasubandhu, Tan-Luan, Daochuo, Shandao, Genshin, Honen, and Shinran, without whom I could not have found and understood, in my case to some small extent, Amida Dharma and my utter helplessness, trapped in the endless suffering of samsara. Never forget these wise words from Tannisho by Yuienbo. Quote, as I humbly reflect on the past, when the late Master Shinran was alive, and the present in my foolish mind, I cannot but lament the divergences from the true shinjin that he conveyed by speaking to us directly, and I fear there are doubts and confusions in the way followers receive and transmit the teaching. For how is entrance into the single gate of easy practice possible unless we happily come to rely on a true teacher whom conditions bring us to encounter? Let there be not the slightest distortion of the teaching of other power, with words of an understanding based on personal views. End quote. My sincere hope is that readers and listeners will find that certain words, phrases, ideas, and concepts in these poems resonate with their past and present experience and prove to be helpful and meaningful in increasing their understanding of this profound and precious Amida Dharma. I would encourage readers and listeners to share these PDFs and recordings with family and friends, especially the audio recordings for those who may have difficulties with reading, so that as many people as possible may benefit. I also hope that these verses help others and motivate them to find a good teacher like Reverend Josho, Adrian, Cirlea, listen deeply to Amida Dharma, and think and say, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu. Thank you, Amida Buddha. Homage to Amida Buddha. I take refuge in Amida Buddha. Amida's Helping Hand by Gansen John Welch. In a world where fools and rogues rule, it is difficult to survive and strive to live a life devoted to eternal truth, where all ages, but especially the youth, are taught half-truths, propaganda and lies, even up to the end, when we die, buried in our coffins containing confusion, ignorance, folly, and delusion. Is it any wonder that we wander endlessly from birth to death, without reprieve or pause for breath, from these seemingly eternal nightmares of suffering, worries, woes, foes, and cares? Today, not tomorrow, heed Amida's call, lest you once again helplessly fall into samsara's realms of pain. Grasp now Amida's helping hand and gain unconditional entry into Sukhavati, where you will be forever free from samsara's suffering and karma, thanks entirely to Amida Dharma. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu. Thank you, Amida Buddha. Homage to Amida Buddha. I take refuge in Amida Buddha. These verses were inspired by the following passage in Tannisho, pages 23 to 24. Quote, the Master, Shinran Shonen, would often say, when I consider deeply the vow of Amida, which arose from 5 kalpas of profound thought, I realize that it was entirely for the sake of myself alone. Then how am I filled with gratitude for the primal vow in which Amida resolved to save me, though I'm burdened with such heavy karma? Reflecting once more on this expression of Shinran's innermost thoughts, I find that it does not differ in the least from those precious words of Shandao. Know yourself to be a foolish being of karmic evil, caught in birth and death, ever sinking and ever wandering in transmigration from innumerable kalpas in the past, with never a condition that would lead to emancipation. Thus, how grateful I feel for Shinran's words, in which he gives himself and his example in order to make us realize we are in delusion, knowing nothing at all of the depths of our karmic evil or the vastness of Amida's benevolence. In truth, myself and others discuss only good and evil, leaving Amida's benevolence out of consideration. Among Master Shinran's words were, I know nothing at all of good and evil, for if I could know thoroughly as Amida Tathagata knows that an act was good, then I would know good. If I could know thoroughly as the Tathagata knows that an act was evil, then I would know evil. But with a foolish being full of blind passions, in this fleeting world, this burning house, all matters, without exception, are empty and false, totally without truth and sincerity. The Nembutsu alone is true and real. End quote. Namo Amida Butsu. The Ship of the Vow by Gansen John Welch. Crossing the stormy seas of samsara, aboard the ship of self-power, we will inevitably sink and drown in the giant waves caused by all that we crave, as well as our ignorance, confusion, aversion and delusion. If by great good fortune and chance we read or hear Amida Dharma, we should deeply drink from this precious source of liberating wisdom and compassion, and without any delay or doubts, of course, immediately board the ship of Amida's other power, which will carry us safely and securely to Amida's land that is pure, where we can be sure that we will become fully enlightened Buddhas after death and clearly seeing the terrible suffering of all sentient beings, return to samsara to help all other Buddhas in their sacred duty to free all suffering sentient beings from samsara and bring them all at death to Sukhavati. All this is due entirely to Amida Buddha and his inconceivable merit and other power. So do not delay and decide this very hour to entrust your karmic destiny entirely, utterly, and completely to Amida, the greatest of all Buddhas. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Thank you, Amida Buddha. Homage to Amida Buddha. I take refuge in Amida Buddha. These verses were inspired by the following passage in Tannisho, pages 17 to 18. Quote, on the assertion that one attains enlightenment even while maintaining this bodily existence full of blind passions. This statement is completely absurd. The attainment of Buddhahood with this very body is the essence of the Shingon esoteric teaching. It is the realization achieved through the three kinds of mystic acts. The purification of the 6 sense organs is the one vehicle teaching of the Lotus Sutra. It is the virtue acquired through the 4 practices of repose. These are both ways of difficult practice to be followed by those of superior capacity. They lead to the enlightenment realized through fulfilling contemplative practice. Attaining enlightenment in the coming life is the essence of the Pure Land teaching of other power. It is the principle actualized through the settlement of shinjin. This is the way of easy practice to be followed by those of inferior capacity. It is the teaching that makes no distinction between the good and the evil. Since it is extremely difficult to free oneself from blind passions and the hindrances of karmic evil in this life, even the virtuous monks who practice the Shingon and Tendai teachings pray for enlightenment in the next life. In our case, what more need be said? We lack both the observance of precepts and the comprehension of wisdom. But when, by allowing ourselves to be carried on the ship of Amida's vow, we have crossed this ocean of suffering that is birth and death, and attained the shore of the Pure Land, the dark clouds of blind passions will swiftly clear, and the moon of enlightenment, true reality, will immediately appear. Becoming one with the unhindered light, filling the 10 quarters, we will benefit all sentient beings. It is at that moment that we attain enlightenment. Do those who speak of realizing enlightenment while in this bodily existence manifest various accommodated bodies, possess the Buddha's 32 features and 80 marks, and preach the Dharma to benefit beings like Shakyamuni? It is this that is meant by realizing enlightenment in this life. It is stated in a hymn, when the time comes for shinjin, indestructible as diamond, to become settled, Amida grasps and protects us with compassion and light, so that we may forever part from birth and death. This means that at the moment shinjin becomes settled, we are grasped, never to be abandoned, and therefore we will not transmigrate further in the 6 courses. Only then do we part forever from birth and death. Should such awareness be confusedly termed attaining enlightenment, it is regrettable that such misunderstanding should arise. The late Master Shinran Shonen said, "According to the true essence of the Pure Land Way, one entrusts oneself to the primal vow in this life and realizes enlightenment in the Pure Land. This is the teaching I received." End quote. Namo Amida Butsu. Amida's, Amitabha Buddha's infinite light by Gansen John Welch. Never give up or give in. Persist and persevere, no matter how severe the outlook appears to be. Do not allow clouds of despair to fill your world with terrible strife and to darken your thoughts and life. Please remember that Amida's light is always there to provide comfort, encouragement, care, and lighten the darkest night. So never give up the fight for freedom, wisdom, and love, and soon the dark skies above will clear as you begin more and more to listen to and read Amida Dharma, and you will finally be freed from all the suffering in samsara caused by your negative karma. You will be forever free from ego's ignorance and folly as you grasp Amida's helping hand and cling to Amida's sleeve. No more will you grieve as you say each and every day, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu. Thank you, Amida Buddha. Homage to Amida Buddha. I take refuge in Amida Buddha. These verses were inspired by the following passage from Reverend Josho Adrian's important and excellent book, The Meaning of Faith and Embutsu in Jodo Shinshu Buddhism, pages 112 to 115. Quote, "This is also why Amida promised in his 17th vow that all Buddhas will praise his name. By praising his name, the Buddhas are actually praising his primal vow, where saying of the name and faith is the method of being born in his pure land. We must clearly understand this. I understand that which is called the vow that all Buddhas say the name, and the vow that all Buddhas praise the name, that is the 17th vow, is for the purpose of encouraging the sentient beings of the 10 quarters to entrust themselves to Amida's primal vow, that is the 18th vow. Further, I have been taught that it fulfills the purpose of bringing to an end the doubting thought of the sentient beings of the 10 quarters. This is understood to be the witness of the Buddhas of the 10 quarters taught in the Amida Sutra. The light of Amida Buddha shines without exception over all the 10 directions, and the innumerable Buddhas in the universe in unison praise the name of Amida Buddha. Not only other Buddhas praise Amida's name, thus encouraging beings everywhere to say it in faith, but they also work in many known and unknown ways to guide us all to accept Amida's method of salvation. To the evil sentient beings of wrong views in this evil age of the 5 defilements, in this evil world, the Buddhas, countless as the sands of the Ganges, give the name of Amida, urging them to entrust themselves to it. Being born in the Buddha land of happiness is the path to ultimate attainment of Buddhahood. All the Buddhas acclaim the Pure Land, for birth there is the unsurpassed means. Shakyamuni, Amida, and the Buddhas of the 10 quarters, all with the same mind, are no more apart from sentient beings of the Nembutsu than shadows from things. Shinjin is bestowed through the compassionate means of Shakyamuni, Amida, and all the Buddhas in the 10 quarters. Shakyamuni and all the Buddhas are truly our compassionate father and mother. With various compassionate means, they lead us to awaken supreme Shinjin or faith that is true and real. As in the case of Vajrayana, we cannot separate the vehicle of the primal vow from the Mahayana vehicle, because both have the aspiration to bring all sentient beings to Buddhahood. We can rather say that the vehicle of the primal vow is the consummation of Mahayana, as it offers the quickest and most accessible method for all beings. The selected primal vow is the true essence of the Pure Land Way. The true essence of the Pure Land Way is the consummation of Mahayana Buddhism. It is the consummate teaching amongst consummate teachings, the southern teaching amongst southern teachings. Even if Vajrayana may claim that its methods is the quickest, it can never say that it can bring all sentient beings to Buddhahood, no matter their spiritual capacities. Thus, there is actually no Dharma gate and no Buddhist vehicle which is so accessible to all beings like the primal vow, whose essence is the Nembutsu of faith. Although the various Dharma gates all lead to liberation, none of them surpasses birth in the Western land through the Nembutsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Amida's Inconceivable Saving Grace by Gansen John Welch. We are like a yacht without an engine at the mercy of wild winds and mountainous waves. We are utterly helpless and cannot free ourselves from these irresistible forces of karma. Only Amida and his peerless Dharma can finally and safely save us from the terrible suffering that awaits in future lower realms and states, the inevitable consequence of past thoughts, words, and deeds. We must quickly awake from our nightmare in this time of need, and entrust ourselves entirely, utterly and completely to Amida's great grace and saving other power. Abandon all reliance on our futile and feeble self-power. Rely only on Amida's primal vow. Not tomorrow, but now. Say Amida's Buddha's name of unsurpassed fame, and wish to be born in Amida's Pure Land Sukhavati, where you will be forever free from all suffering, and then able to help bring all sentient beings in samsara to the bliss of nirvana, thanks entirely to the inconceivable working of Amida's primal vow. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu. Thank you, Amida Buddha. Homage to Amida Buddha. I take refuge in Amida Buddha. These verses were inspired by the following passage from Reverend Josho Adrian Cirlea's important and excellent book, The Meaning of Faith and Nembutsu, in Jodo Shinshu Buddhism, pages 97 to 99. Quote, the one vehicle of the primal vow, the ultimate teaching of Shakyamuni and all Buddhas. It is very important to understand that Shinran Shonen did not consider the primal vow and the teaching explaining it to be just a path among the many Mahayana methods, but the supreme Buddhist vehicle, the one vehicle of the primal vow, or universal vow, the most important teaching of all Buddhas, the true, hidden reason for their coming to this world. He said, respectfully, I proclaim to all aspirants of birth, the ocean of the one vehicle of the universal vow. When I ponder the ocean of the one vehicle of the primal vow, I see that it is the all-merging, perfect, unhindered, absolute, and unparalleled teaching that brings about the quickest effect. Know that because the one vehicle of the primal vow is the ultimate sudden teaching, the teaching of sudden and instantaneous attainment, the perfectly fulfilled teaching, and the consummate teaching. It is the absolute and incomparable teaching, the path of true reality or suchness. It is the single within the single, the sudden within the sudden, the true within the true, the consummate within the consummate. The one vehicle that is true reality is the ocean of the great vow. It is the supreme rare practice. Why is it the ultimate sudden teaching, or teaching of sudden and instantaneous attainment? Because through this teaching we will attain perfect enlightenment in the very moment of our birth in the Pure Land. This is also the reason why it is the path of true reality or suchness, and the one vehicle that is true reality. If we enter the Pure Land of Amida Buddha through the gate of the primal vow, we immediately attain true reality or suchness, that is, Dharmakaya of Buddha nature. Why is it the unparalleled teaching, the perfectly fulfilled teaching, the consummate teaching, and the absolute and incomparable teaching? Because it is the ultimate teaching of all Buddhas, the true meaning of their coming in various samsaric realms, and because no other teaching, practice, or Dharma gate can bring so easily all beings without any discrimination of their respective virtues or lack of virtue to the attainment of perfect enlightenment. Shakyamuni Tathagata appeared in this world solely to teach the ocean-like primal vow of Amida. We, an ocean of beings in an evil age of 5 defilements, should entrust ourselves to the Tathagata's words of truth. Truly, we know then that the crucial matter for which the great sage, the world-honored one, appeared in this world was to reveal the true benefit of the compassionate vow and to declare it to be the direct teaching of the Tathagatas. The essential purport of this great compassion is to teach the immediate attainment of birth by foolish beings. Thus, looking into the essence of the teaching of the Buddhas, we find that the true and fundamental intent for which all the Tathagatas, past, present, and future, appear in this world is solely to teach the inconceivable vow of Amida. Namo Amida Butsu.